Hello, everyone. Lacey Weeden, the Director of Parent-Friendly Programs at Georgia Tech. Just want to welcome you to another episode of webinar series of What's Buzzin' at Georgia Tech. We appreciate you being here today, and we have for today Justin Boone, who's the Assistant Director of Tutoring and Academic Support, who is going to come on and share a little bit about kind of supporting your student and what to know about how they can get access to resources here on campus. And I will let him, let me get him live and we'll take it away.
Cool. Hey y'all, so I'm going to share my screen real quick. In 1 second. All right, Lacey, are you seeing the presentation or the like presenter side?
I'm still seeing you. You're
okay.
Let me get your slide up. Hold on. I'll get you up. Hold on. And there's your slide. All right, you are all set.
All right, great. Hey everybody, I'm Justin Boone. I'm the Assistant Director for Tutoring and Academic Support here at Georgia Tech. We're going to talk about a bit of our services, but then we'll also talk about just kind of the student's experience overall for what to do, whenever you get stuck or whenever you're seeking help in a class. So if you remember nothing else, remember that there's free tutoring on campus. No need to go out and pay for a tutor. All of our services are listed at tutoring.gatech.edu. We have a few kind of flagship services that we offer that are really student facing, and we'll hit on each of these kind of in turn. But first we have one-to-one tutoring. That's an appointment-based service where we have around 170 student staff that work with us each semester, and students can book appointments with our tutors. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of how they do that shortly. We also have a program called Peer-Led Undergraduate Study, or PLUS, where it's a very professor-specific type of support, where we have a tutor that attends lectures with the students and then holds these study sessions after the class. We have some drop-in tutoring rooms for a lot of our core classes that we get a lot of demand for, so math, physics, chemistry, orgo, that sort of thing. No appointment necessary, students can just drop by. And then we also have a learning assistant program where we have a tutor who works with the faculty member during class to help facilitate some active learning. So let's get started here with kind of what it looks like being a student at Georgia Tech. We know that they didn't pick Georgia Tech as the easy choice. I feel like everybody knows it's a rigorous course or a rigorous school, and they're going to get a good education, but it's not always going to be easy. And so we try to hit during orientation, during the first of the semester, try to hit home kind of what the expectation is for how many hours a week you should be working in class. Coming from high school to college, they are in class about half the amount of the time that they were in high school, but are expected to learn, 2-3 times as much as they did whenever they were in high school. And so a lot of their learning takes place outside of the lectures. So for a typical Georgia Tech student, they spend anywhere from 14, 16, sometimes 18 hours a week in class or in lecture. But that's not all, right? Like that's where they kind of get the fountain of knowledge from the instructor. But a lot of the learning where they're really digesting the information and being able to apply the topics that are covered happen outside of lecture. And so we get a lot of questions from students saying, how many hours a week should I be studying outside of class? And it really depends on the course. We usually say if it's a STEM course, which most of our classes are here at Tech, anywhere from 2 to 3 hours outside of class for every hour inside of class. But then for some of the other courses that they may have previous experience with, let's say if they're a chemistry major, they took Chem 1, in high school, and then now they're moving into Chem 2 here at Tech, and they feel pretty confident in the course material. Like that may be a course where with their background, they really don't need to spend the 2 to 3 hours in it, so they can spend the time in some other classes. But overall, we say around 2 to 3 hours outside of class for every hour inside of class. And we really work with students to articulate what is it that you're doing whenever you're studying. We have a lot of students that come in and say, I studied 18 hours for this and still wasn't sure what to do here. And whenever we ask, like, what did you do while you were studying? They're just like, what do you mean? I studied. Like that's the that's the activity. But there's a lot of different ways that you can study. You know, are you reading a textbook? Are you watching these videos that your instructor posted? Are you working through problem sets? Are you studying alone? Are you studying with a friend? Are you going to a tutoring session? Like really any of these activities that you do outside of lecture count as study time, right? And so whenever we say 25 to 30 hours a week studying, we don't mean 25 to 30 hours a week staring at a textbook trying to solve a problem. There's multiple different ways that you can try to get a deeper understanding of the course material. So our tutoring here at Georgia Tech, we have both in-person and virtual options. That's one of the blessings that came from COVID, is we learned really quickly how to effectively run online tutoring sessions. And we found that students really appreciate the flexibility of being able to do online sessions. And so we offer both in-person and virtual, depending on the student's preference. All of our tutors are trained through this College Reading and Learning Association's International Tutor Training Program certification. It's a mouthful, but they are, for each of our tutors, they take a pedagogy course their first semester of work, where we train them on effective questioning techniques, different like learning styles, that sort of thing, and how they can really get the student to lead the sessions rather than the tutor just saying, here's my thought process, here's how I solve this problem. They really try to get the student to articulate and defend why they're doing what they're doing as they're working through these problems. These tutoring sessions are that students can sign up for up to 2 appointments per week for each class that they're registered in. These appointments are 1-hour appointments. We typically say, you know, if you're booking a tutoring appointment, we're expecting the student to bring the material that they want to work on to the session. It's not like the tutor has a lesson plan or anything like that they're going to do with students. It's really student driven. The material that's covered is based on what that particular student wants to cover during that 1-hour session. We'll talk a little bit about what if a student doesn't know what they want to cover and they're just like, I need help in physics. But for our one-to-one tutoring appointments, it is something where they need to bring in a problem set, they need to bring in specific material that they want to work on. For drop-in help desks, we where it's not an appointment, we have these rooms set up specifically for math, physics, CS, chemistry, organic chemistry, that sort of thing. And a lot of students say this is a great place to come and work on their homework, right? Because they can get started on their problem sets, kind of chug along if things are going well. And then whenever they get stuck, they can raise their hand and a tutor or TA will be around to kind of help them get unstuck on that problem. It's a lot less intimidating than I think a one-on-one session where you feel like you have to kind of have that guidance throughout the full hour. You can just swing by, work on your problem sets. And then for these drop-in labs, they're in some larger classrooms, and a lot of times students will be in there for the same course, and so they can work together on these problem sets too in the drop-in help desks. So overall, whether it's drop-in tutoring or appointment-based tutoring, we train our tutors to help the student really articulate what it is that they're doing, try to figure out and pinpoint where they're getting stuck, their point of confusion, and then give them the tools to figure out how to get unstuck on that problem. While it's great to hear a student be like, thank you so much, I wouldn't have been able to do this without you, you know, we want to let them know, like, you can do this without us. There's all these resources out here. We're just helping you kind of navigate and learn how to use these resources and be a better learner. For our appointment-based tutoring, we support over 130 courses each semester. We try to really hit hard on the courses that have been historically challenging for students or kind of roadblocks to progression and retention. But it is something where if we can get a tutor for a 4,000, 6,000 level AE course, we're going to try to get that tutor, and we'll try to get as many as we can that to help support as many students as we can. And if we can't hire a tutor for a specific course in the semester, we work with instructors to be able to kind of get some more guidance and support there for students. So students can sign up for tutoring appointments online at tutoring.gatech.edu. They just log in with their Georgia Tech credentials, and then it pulls up the courses that they're registered for. Click on the course they are looking for help in, and it pulls up all the tutors' availabilities that can support that course. Students do need to book an appointment at least 2 weeks in advance, or sorry, at least 24 hours in advance. but no sooner than 2 weeks in advance. So this allows our tutors to know kind of what their day looks like the next day, and knows like I need to be there at 1 o'clock on Tuesday so I can meet with Sarah or whatever. But we do block them from booking appointments longer than 2 weeks in advance. A lot of material happens within 2 weeks here at Tech, and so we want to be sure that they're booking appointments for the courses that they need help with, and can prioritize when they're meeting with tutors for those specific courses. Our drop-in tutoring labs, all those hours are posted at tutoring.gatech.edu as well. Really, any time that the drop-in tutoring labs are open, students can just drop in and get help. Okay, we're going to move on to PLUS here. So this stands for Peer-Led Undergraduate Study. This is one of my favorite types of academic support that we have. This is where we have a PLUS leader. They attend lectures with the students, and then they work with a faculty member to come up with like a problem set or come up with some material that the instructor's like, this is what students should be working on outside of class. And it's not necessarily like a homework set, but it's more like, here's the topics that students should be working on. And then we have our PLUS leader invites everybody in the lecture to 2 regularly scheduled study sessions each week for this course. For these regularly scheduled study sessions, this could be like every Monday and Wednesday from 5 to 6, and CLUF 131 will be studying linear algebra. And so for these sessions, the PLUS leader comes in with problems that they want the students to work on, and then they have some sort of activity plan on how you're going to get students to work on this problem without just watching you as the PLUS leader kind of solve the problems on the board. And so a lot of times this will look like students coming in and the PLUS leader saying, okay, you 3 over here on this board, you 3 over here on this board, you 3 over here on this board. You're going to work on the problems that are posted, and then after 5 minutes we'll rotate and you'll pick up where the other group left off. And then they get a chance to like articulate and defend, you know, what they're doing as they're working through these problems. The students don't have to bring material into the session. They know that they can just show up, and the PLUS leader is going to have material based on what the instructor thinks is important at that time. And then they get a chance to really defend what they're doing. So if someone asks a question to the PLUS leader tries to redirect that to somebody else to get them to articulate. We're a huge believer that explaining things or teaching things is a great way to like learn it yourself and figure out where your own like gaps in understanding are. And so we want to give the students a chance to kind of explain to each other and really build that sense of camaraderie as they're going through the class. PLUS sessions are a lot of fun. Our leaders get really creative with their activities. We'll have like March Madness type PLUS sessions going on, or like Thanksgiving themed PLUS sessions where like they'll pick problems off of a turkey or things like that. And so students really like kind of the just break out of the norm of sitting down and listen to somebody explain something, and can really be a part of an activity and have some fun with the course material. Okay, so currently we support these courses on the screen. We whenever we're picking courses to support with PLUS, we look at historically challenging courses with lower success rates, and then we work with faculty member to figure out, is this a good fit for your course, and if so, let's make this work for students. Out of all of our programs, PLUS has the highest kind of correlation to increased grades. Like students, every year we do an analysis for students who attend PLUS sessions regularly, and we mean like not just right before exams, but kind of regularly throughout the semester, like 5 or more times. And over the past 8 years, we've seen like students are like 3 times more likely to be successful in the class if they attend 5 or more sessions for that course than students who don't attend for PLUS. So it's really good correlation there. We think a big part of it is kind of students get over that fear of, if I don't ask questions, then they won't know that I'm stuck. And they get into these rooms together and they're just like, whatever, it doesn't matter what we know, we're all learning this together. They can kind of break down those barriers and really dig into the material and not be embarrassed about what they don't know, but be excited about like what they're learning, right? Okay, so we get a lot of questions from students and parents about, you know, how can my student like use these programs and services. So all of our services are listed on our website at tutoring.gatech.edu. They can book tutoring appointments on our website. They can see the PLUS schedule posted on our website, but our PLUS leaders also post announcements through their course Canvas sites. So the same way that the instructor posts announcements to the class, our PLUS leader also posts announcements to say, like, here's session reminders, or if they're holding a extended review session before an exam, they'll let the students know the details of that as well. And then we also get a lot of questions from students about how can I be a PLUS leader or a tutor? We are always hiring more PLUS leaders, tutors, and learning assistants. In order to support a course with us, you had to have taken it here at Georgia Tech and earned an A, at least for their first semester of work. We have a lot of students who are like, I'm a third-year physics major. I came in with Physics 1. It doesn't make sense for me not to be able to support Physics 1. But for their very first semester of working with us, they do have to have taken the course here at Tech and earned an A. And then after that, we can look at opening up some of the courses that they may have had credit for or transferred in with from another institution. But it's typically within their major and, you know, things that kind of make sense for that particular tutor. All of our tutors enroll in a training course their first semester of work, where they get to know each other as tutors and then kind of share kind of best practices on how to be a good peer educator and not just someone who knows calculus really well or something. And then the application is online at tutoring.gatech.edu/student-employment, or just like Google Georgia Tech tutoring. It's the first thing that pops up, and we're always happy to review some new applicants. For the kind of where to go to get help, we've got our different kind of main parts of our website for tutoring, plus, and then drop in all together. All the different schedules are there. I will say a quick note: if we don't, if a student's looking for help in a course and they don't see, you know, a plus session or availability or anything like that that helps support that course, we have an unmet tutoring need form that they can fill out and let us know, you know, what course you're looking for help in, and then you also let us know when are you available for help, right? And we use that those responses we blast out to our team and say, like, hey, we have a student in this class looking for help. They're available Monday and Wednesday evenings after 6 or something, right? And these are completely free services for students to use, but they are paid positions for the tutors and plus leaders. And our student staff always want to pick up more hours, right? And so it may just be that a tutor's regular availability is before 6 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, but they're like, yeah, I'm also free after 6, so let's pick up that appointment. We have a really good success rate with fulfilling these unmet tutoring needs. And even if we don't have tutors for it, we have a lot of faculty member connections where we can reach out and say, hey, got somebody who's looking for help in this class. Can they come to your office hours to chat about this material or something like that? So definitely don't be afraid. Don't look at the website and be like, oh, there's nothing there for my class. Fill out this unmet tutoring need form and we'll find somebody to help. Speaking of professors, we always want to say that our services are supplementary to what an instructor does for their class, right? We are not a replacement for like going to lecture or going to office hours if you have questions or anything like that. And so we've got this little kind of flow chart for what to do whenever you're looking for help. A lot of times we'll have students come in and ask the plus leader about like, hey, I got this grade, but I think I deserved more or whatever on this assignment. But the plus leader doesn't have anything to do with kind of graded assignments. And so we say, definitely go talk to your professor or TA if it's something where you feel like you deserved more credit for an assignment than you got. Also, the instructor is the expert in the course material, right? Like they know what their expectations are for you. They know what they're expecting you to be able to do in the class. And if you have questions specific to that course, like don't be afraid to go talk to your instructor. And we train our tutors and plus leaders like how to encourage students to go use those services, how to go talk to office hours, and how to like not feel like you're a burden on the instructor by stopping by and asking questions, that sort of thing. But it is something that I think that hearing it from different avenues, from parents, from friends, from faculty themselves, like the more that we can get students to kind of get over that first fear of going in and talking to somebody, the better, right? Our tutors for our tutoring appointments, we do not help with graded content. And so if a student comes in and they're like, hey, I'm working on this homework set, how do we, how do I do this problem? How do I do this problem? We train our tutors on how to like pull out the concepts from the problems, but we don't work on specifically graded assignments. Same with Plus. We don't want to give an unfair advantage to somebody who was able to get an appointment or able to attend a Plus session over somebody who wasn't. So if it's graded assignments, we always refer to the professor or TA. And then for if students are struggling with not the course content, like if they're like, I don't need help with integration by parts, or I don't need help with Gram-Schmidt process or something like this, that they're like, I just need help like managing my time. I feel like I'm biting off more than I can chew. I'm getting really stressed out. Like I need some tips and tricks to like keep everything organized and together. Or it might just be motivation. Like I'm feeling pretty burnout. I know what I need to do. I just can't hold myself accountable for actually getting up and making it happen, right? This is where we work really closely with our Office of Undergraduate Advising and Transitions, where they have academic coaches that are learning specialists, and they meet with students to go over study skills, time management, how to avoid procrastination, motivation workshops, that sort of thing. And we refer back and forth between those programs a lot. So we may have a student that comes into a tutoring session that once they start working on the problems, they seem to be okay. But just kind of the getting the process of like setting up an appointment or setting aside time to actually do the problems is where the hurdles come in. So our tutors refer over to academic coaching all the time. We'll have students that go to academic coaching where they'll meet and get a kind of a plan set out. And then they say, okay, this one class, the content here is still kind of a hurdle for you. And so let's get you some academic support. So our academic coaches also refer over to tutoring. So all these are great resources. You can learn about academic coaching on the advising website, just advising.godtech.edu, or Google Georgia Tech Academic Coaching. Again, first thing that pops up there. Great. Okay, I have a few minutes left, so I would like to kind of ping advising one more time. It's that time of the year where students are deciding whether or not they want to drop a class, add a class, and then course registration is going to be coming up soon. I can't stress enough how much a student kind of having a plan and understanding, okay, here's what I am needing to do with my academic journey kind of moving forward. Or here's how it would affect me if I dropped this class and needed to retake it next semester, or here's how it would affect me if I was able to, like, if I want to wiggle in an internship this semester or something like that. Academic advisors are a great resource. It's not just going to see somebody to like get a hold removed so that you can register for a class. They'll really help you figure out why is it that you're in the program of study that you are in, how to get the most out of your time that you're here, and how can we figure out how to meld the things that you want to do in with the things that you have to do to get a degree. So academic advisors are great. And if we have a student that is interested in like changing their major, or maybe they're a little concerned that like, I don't know if this is the right fit for me, that sort of thing, we have exploratory advising. Unfortunately, Stephanie Luco is no longer here with us, but we do have some new exploratory advisors coming in where they can really sit down and figure out, like, is it that calculus is hard and that's why you're thinking about switching your major? Or is it because you actually want to do something, something else, and kind of get to that motivation that you're making an informed, adaptive decision about where you want to head rather than a defensive decision because the first like major specific AE class was hard or something. If you're motivated to be an aerospace engineer and you're really excited about the job prospects, let's figure out how to get you the academic support to be successful here. You can do anything that you want to do. If we accepted you, we are committed to helping you succeed here at Tech. But sometimes what you thought you wanted whenever you were, 17, 18-year-old is different than what you want as you kind of get through your major. So exploratory advising is a great way to kind of have those discussions and figure out what it is that you want to do. Great. Okay. Do we have any questions? Anything from the audience?
We do. So one of the questions basically talks about, how do you help the student go from being the tutor, the smart Georgia Tech student in high school, to walking around to the other side and asking for help. We know our students struggle with that so much. And so this family has asked, how do you help them kind of work through feeling like a failure, getting stuck with anxiety to ask for help?
Yeah, that is a great question. I think here at Georgia Tech, I've seen it more than anywhere else that I've been, where a student comes in and they're like, they'll kind of put all the onus on themselves. Like, I should have studied harder. I should have done this. I should have spent 80 hours a week on this rather than 20 hours a week or something. And it's because they know that they can accomplish it, right? And that's one area whenever you're like, okay, if you know that you can do it, how can we help you do it more effectively? If it gets to a point where they are really unsure about do I have the capability of learning this content? That's a mindset, right? We try to overcome that. We have them meet with people to realize you're not alone. You weren't a mistake to get accepted into Georgia Tech. I think this imposter syndrome is a huge issue that a lot of students battle with. I know I battled with it whenever I first came to Tech. I did grad school here and was like, oh no, now I'm used to being able to do everything without having to spend so much time outside of school working on it. And now that I was here, I was like, can I do this? What's going on? And it really was forming a bond with my peers as we were going through the program to realize oh, we're all in this together. Let's do what we can to come out of it. I think the plus sessions are a great avenue for that, because a lot of times it can be hard to admit that you're struggling in a class, or even admit hey, I didn't do what I think I should have done. But then whenever you're in these sessions and you see other people that are working on the material, and one of the things that we do a lot of training on with our student staff is they'll be worried. We'll tell our tutors are more afraid of you than you are of them. For the judge, our tutors are like, oh no, I should know how to do this, that sort of thing. But as a student in a traditional lecture, what you're watching is somebody who has a prepared plan for how they're going to solve these problems in front of a group, right? They kind of know the pitfalls. They've recently worked on that problem. They're able to articulate, and they do all the steps the right way. Whenever you're working on problems yourself, you may try something and get halfway through and be like, wait, I was supposed to do this. Let me go back and change that, And seeing somebody else's thought process whenever they're doing that is something you don't get a chance to do so much during lecture or recitation. But in a plus session, you'll see students attack these problems so many different ways. Or in a tutoring session, you'll get a chance to, the tutor will let you, kind of go down a path and then try to help you figure out okay, where was the misstep here? How do you go back and fix it? Because that's what everybody's doing whenever they're working on homework. It's not like they pick the right path every single time. And I think the sooner that you can get out of isolation and see what other students are doing and kind of work together, the sooner you realize okay, it's not so, it's not just me. We're all kind of in this learning process together. We do some workshops and things. We'll do some class visits to kind of get our face out there for students who haven't taken that first step to initiate getting help. And we also work closely with faculty and instructors. If a student comes into their office hours right before the exam and they're like, I'm way behind, I don't know what to do, I'm getting really stressed out, then we'll reach out to that student to try to initiate the conversation, so that it's not the student's onus to say hey, can I get help? But we're reaching out to say, hey, how can we help? We're here to support you, right?
One of my favorite quotes from orientation is from Facet is, the smartest person in the room is the person that asks for help. Yeah. And I think that, that kind of, it's okay to ask for help. And imposter syndrome definitely is so strong here at Georgia Tech. And we know our students are smart. We wouldn't have admitted them otherwise. And, just sometimes reaching out and asking for help is easier than working 80 hours on a problem. And really could have just, but it's hard. We totally get the anxiety that a lot of our students feel. So
I was having a conversation with one of my tutors our tutors use tutoring, right? They're in there helping other students, but then in the classes that they're taking, they'll get tutoring from somebody else. But I was talking with her, she was having a pretty rough time in a specific course, and she was like, you know, whenever I first started, she was a woman of color. She was like, I felt like maybe I wasn't up to snuff, and maybe I got in because of who I am and not my like capabilities for this class. And it was a whole nother layer to the imposter syndrome that I had never really thought about as like a white male, right? And then she added another layer to be like, and I took this class online, so I'm not really sure if I understand the material as well. And we have so many students who are like, yeah, but I did that online. They're like, yeah, but I did this online. And so they feel like they slid by the online course and didn't really like learn the material as deeply as students who did the in-person course. And while like sometimes, sure, that's fun. Like there's going to be times where you're like, okay, if this was different, I would have learned more. But all of your peers went through the online courses at the same time. Like, don't feel like because you had these semesters where it was different for you, that it wasn't different for other people coming into your cohort. And if it was, and you were like, hey, I feel like I need more help in this specific class, talk with your advisor. Let's get you help. Let's figure out how you can like overcome it, instead of just being like, well, that 1 month of my life affected how well I know physics for the rest of it. You know, there's plenty of time. We can help you kind of get back on track if you're feeling down, but also don't feel like you were the only one who feels like maybe you got away with something in an online course that you wouldn't have got away with in an in-person one. That's just another kind of layer to that imposter syndrome.
That's interesting, you know, and thinking about our students who definitely took all their classes through the COVID times. That would be an extra layer that they would be like, oh, I probably could have learned a lot more had I, but they all were doing that. You're right. It wasn't just a few people. So that's so true. So another question we have from a parent is, are the tutoring rooms course specific or topic specific, i.e. CS or a CS specific course?
Yeah, great question. So it really depends on the drop-in room. So we have a CS 1371 drop-in lab that's for one specific course. It has huge enrollment, and we have so many students coming in. It's a really tough course. Like everybody says, it's 1371 because it's 71 credit hours. But anyways, or 13 to 71 credit hours. So that course has its own specific room for help. Our math lab is a larger room where we have multiple TAs kind of bouncing around the room, and it's any sort of math, stats, probability class that you might be taking that is staffed by graduate students over in the School of Math. Not course specific, we may have like little tables that as you come into the room are like, okay, if you're in calc over here, if you're in linear algebra here, if you're in DiffEQ or something over here. And then for our one-to-one tutoring, it's in a tutoring center where we have different tutoring bays, and it's really more about the person that's coming in than the subject. It's not like all math over here, all physics over here, but it's like, hey, Jenny, you'll be in bay 3 with Steve or something.
Great. Let's see, another question is there any support for students who need help organizing themselves overall across courses? And I know you mentioned coaching. And she typed that right as you were mentioning coaching. So I think.
Yeah, academic coaching is definitely more about like the process of being a good student versus the help with the course content. And that's always my go-to suggestion. And I will say that, I mean, a lot of students don't know who to ask for specific things, or they might be like, oh, I'm going through this, but this person can't really help. A lot of professional staff at Georgia Tech have been at Georgia Tech for a while. We know each other really well. Like we have really good cohesion between units. Even if they don't know who to ask, just ask somebody, and then we'll try to find the person who can support you, right? It's not like you have to ask the right person, just anybody, and we'll do our best to point you in the right direction for somebody who could support what you're going through.
Yeah, and we also talk at orientation too about first-year students in particular, about how they don't really know how to manage their time. And so because they were so kind of organized in high school, and then they had after-school activities, and then they had, dinner was at a certain time, and maybe they were studying. And so now that they're here and they kind of have all this free time, if you will, because no one's telling them to go to bed or get up or go to school or taking them to practice or whatever it is. It's harder for them to manage their time because they're doing it on their own. And so there is, as Justin said, there are workshops on time management on how to do that as well.
One of the time management workshop is the highest attended of all of our like study skills workshops. I feel like I was talking with a partner at another institution that does these time management workshops, and she was like, we typically do them 2 days in a row. That way, if a student signed up for the first one and then didn't come, like they could ping them again and be like, hey, we'll talk about procrastination, about like how to pop things in your schedule. But one of the most useful things that a lot of our tutors use, we kind of do a time management training day in our training course with the tutors so that they can help model good time management with their students when they meet with them. But one of the things is we have a semester at a glance, and it's just kind of a whole semester calendar on one page so that you can look at it and be like, where are we at? This was fall break. This is when my midterm 3 is due, and like all of that stuff. And that's really helped a lot of our staff be like, okay, if I don't have any assignments due this week or any big assignments due this week, but I have 3 exams next week, I know I probably shouldn't binge watch something like this week. I should get a jump start on those so that next week's not so bad. And there's something about visually seeing where you're at in the semester and how much time you have left it's good motivation for like, okay, I gotta do it now. Like, even if I am a procrastinator, I gotta step up. And we all struggle with procrastination. I would say the 2 biggest factors in students whenever they're being unsuccessful in the course is one, not knowing or not feeling comfortable asking for help, kind of feeling like they're the only one out there and maybe that they don't deserve the help. And then the second is procrastination. Like they're always saying, I should have started things earlier, I should have done this earlier.
Yeah. So one of the questions I had, and this will be the last question, unless you have anything else you want to add, is fall semester versus spring semester. Do you see more students utilizing tutoring and support in the spring, or is it about equal? I know I feel like in the spring, because we only have the one break versus we have fall break and then holidays and different things, I feel like students struggle a little bit more in the spring than they do in the fall.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we do see fewer visits, but who we see is also a bit different in the spring than in the fall. Typically in the fall, we have so many first semester, first years that are like, I'm making a 4.0. Like I'm doing what I can do to get a 4.0 this semester. The second semester, if somebody got 4 A's and a B, they're like, oh no, I've ruined my 4.0. And so the next semester they like don't have that same external motivation of like, I need this 4.0 on this piece of paper. So a lot of times they'll set expectations for what they want to learn in the class versus like, just I need to make this grade. And I'm hoping that the first semester, whenever students are coming in and meeting with tutors and things, they're realizing that the time that they spend studying and how it kind of relates to their performance in the class, rather than and they can articulate what they're doing when they're studying and kind of self-regulate a little bit better their second semester than they did their first semester. I'll say we have a lot of students that the first semester, like after the first exam, which we're going into kind of exam 2 and stuff here now after fall break. But after that first exam, we have so many conversations with students that are like, none of what I studied was on that exam. Like a lot of the blame for why maybe they didn't meet their expectations on the exam is based on what was on the exam and not what they did to prepare for the exam. And then kind of after we have conversations like, okay, how can we study differently for this next one? Or like, what are some things that we can do to hopefully correlate to success on the next test, instead of just being like, well, there's nothing I can do. The tests are different than what I do whenever I'm out of class. We usually see some progression and them coming to the appointment and be like, okay, I was working on this problem and this is what I need help with now, instead of just coming in and saying like, I need help with all of physics. So I'm hoping that they're becoming more self-regulated learners, and maybe that's something where they also, you build a lot of relationship your first semester. So hopefully they can like work with their friends and kind of build study groups and things like that organically. Second semester, whenever they're coming in the spring, we'll see a lot of students who are very like, this is the topic I want to work on today. Like this is the specific thing that I want to do. So it feels like they're more organized coming in in the spring than they are in the fall, for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, if you have anything else, you can just shout out. Families, just remember we are recording this and we'll post this on our website tomorrow. It takes about 24 hours for us to get it up on our website. So you can share it with your students. You can share it with other families that you know who have issues that want to just kind of recap tutoring and academic support. But I want to thank Justin for taking lunchtime today to help us out and talk to our families.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. Reach out if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye.
Appreciate it. Okay, take care.